Assalamu alaikum. Salam. Assalamu alaikum. Let's see what's going on with this. Yeah. My nose is all stuffed up. How's everyone? Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Give me 1 second. Nope. Okay, let's see here. Oh, everything's fine. No, I'm not back on YouTube. My nose is a little stuffy for some reason. I think I have allergies. Oh, what's that? Okay. There we go. My screen is obviously very shaky because the desk is not stable. How's everyone? My little one is currently asleep, and I'm doing some errands at the moment, so I thought I'd jump on stream real quick and see how everyone is doing. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. With everything that's going on, you feel lost? Why is that? What is there to feel lost about? Jazakallah khair. Streaky red. I don't know. Should they be flying a Palestinian flag? I think that's not really an issue that I'm concerned with. No offense intended. Not prepared for death and signs of the end times. I am currently residing in a temporary space. Yes, they are. I watch your live stream on peaceful coexistence. Quick question: should Muslims living in the West vote against any legislation that promotes haram? I mean, I don't see a problem with voting against legislation. At the same time, though, you need to call into question how far do you want to be engaged with the political system? Because on the one hand, you have a group of Muslims who think that any sort of engagement with the political system amounts to, even go so far as to amount to kufr. Then you have a group of individuals who believe that you should be engaged with the political system to go against like haram legislation or to promote halal, legislation, if you want to call it that, like, banning certain things, etc. But at the same time, you have to compromise because then you have to vote for groups or individuals who would thereby violate the religion in other ways, right? So this is a complicated issue. I would say that the primary concern should be the survival of the Muslim community within a non-Muslim governance. So I'm not necessarily opposed to political engagement if and insofar as one is aware that there is give and take. And as one is aware that the primary goal is the survival of the Muslim community, or at the very least the practice of one's religion without infringement. I am very much opposed, though, to supporting certain types of legislation, knowing full well that the individuals in question are actively engaged in trying to destroy the Muslim community. So, for instance, while it doesn't make me feel comfortable, for example, to work alongside liberals because of certain ethics or ethos that they follow, it makes me more uncomfortable to work with far-right agenda because those individuals are actively engaged in attempting to overturn certain laws or regulations in the United States in order to turn Muslims into second-class citizens. So that's what I would say. So the reason the title of this stream in particular is about sellouts and virtue signaling is because it just happened to come to mind that well, first off, I want to be very clear that I think that my predictions, unfortunately, have largely come true with respect to a lot of things happening in the Dawah online scene and stuff. Recent developments may have appeared to undermine those predictions on account of the fact that there have been so-called wins that have occurred in the last few weeks or so. That said, I think that those are largely theoric in many respects. So, and at the same time, I also feel like it's evidently the case that a lot of these individuals now have sold out their principles in order to ally with people or just groups that that will give them a considerable sense of power or victory, quote unquote. So yeah. Ooh, I love when people make false accusations in chat or stupid assumptions. Well, let's be frank. If you're living as a Muslim in the United States, liberals are less likely to try to harm you or destroy your way of life. Yes, they promote things that are against our religion, but they don't actively impose it in the United States, whereas the conservative right is very much adamant about doing so. Like if you live in a liberal city in the United States, you're less likely to be harmed or to have your religion questioned or your religious values, attempted to be destroyed. But if you live in the southern part of the United States, among a conservative right majority, that is more likely going to occur. Let's see. Yeah, I mentioned in a prior stream that you don't need physical evidence to prove whether or not something is true. Would you elaborate on that? Well, it's not just with respect to God, it's respect to a lot of things. I mean, values, for example, you don't need to provide physical evidence of the warrant of your values. like moral claims don't require physical evidence to be proven true, or even the sense of value itself, or purpose and meaning. Um, like I have you considered not living? I have not lived in the United States before. I've lived across the world, especially in Malaysia. And as to your previous somewhat abrasive comment regarding you would compromise your religion to live as a first class citizen, no, I would not compromise my religion. I'm just not a moron who would go out of my way to instigate hostilities, because I think saying Allahu Akbar and making dua is sufficient for us to survive in this country. And I care more about the blood of a Muslim than whether or not we have pride, or whether or not we're seen as superior to everyone else. So yes, that would be my answer to your rather nonsensical comment. Um, well, it's not that the right, you may not think the right has proven time and time again that they would be more likely to physically harm Muslims, as they have tried on numerous occasions. In fact, if people seem to have forgotten over the last 20, 30 years that all of the major oppressive actions against Muslims have been done by the far right. The war on terror was started by the far right. All of the policies against Muslims in the United States and abroad have been started by the far right. The greater support for Israel, we're all attacking the liberals now. The Democrats are supporting Israel. The far right is the one who primarily facilitated this, and Trump, as far as I'm aware, was the one who gave the most support to Israel over the last several decades. So let's and then you got some groups of Muslims out there going, well, they're both the same, or they're the Democrats even say the Democrats are worse. It's like, no, they're not. You're just an idiot. Sorry, excuse me. I don't mean to be insulting. You're ignorant of the truth. Um, yes, there are leftists who side with Zionists. Again, though, we need to look at the broader context. We also need to look at who has done more and done worse. Um, what will Israel do if they succeed in destroying Gaza? Probably just take over that land, and it'll be Israeli. So, as I noted in the last stream, it seems pretty inevitable at this point, unfortunately, due to the weakness of the Muslim world and the fact that Hamas made some extremely horrible strategic errors and decided to launch an attack in the way that they did, thereby justifying or at least justifying, according to the Israeli political ideology, Zionism, and the international community, a full-on, complete and utter destruction of Gaza. So what are we going to do? Well, I think that a lot of options that would have been more. I'm talking to Septum Sniffer now. An interesting name. Okay, I think that the Arab countries have essentially destroyed the possibility of a more humane alternative to what is currently happening at the very moment. One that I have often promoted and has often been very controversial and unpopular. But I think that there's common, when people say, well, why don't the Palestinians just leave? Well, that would be a perfect option for them, considering the fact that they are going to be a genocide is occurring against them as we speak. However, all these other countries won't let them in and refuse to do so. So as a result, that better alternative has been crushed. That said, knowing that alternative has been crushed, I would say that certain leaders within the Palestinian movement have made some extremely horrible errors in basically making the the cornering a lot more severe and a lot more damaging and fatal. Um, Give me a moment. Sorry. All right then. Okay, sorry about that. Well, here's my that's a problem though. There is a group I think within our Ummah who seem to value land more than they value human life. I'm not saying all the Palestinians do. I'm saying that there are certain um, issues um, in that among certain groups of people, because I have a very strong position on this. And I'm going to give you my analogy, and you can sit here and say, "Oh, well, you don't understand." Well, I kind of do. Um, my ancestors were, forced to leave due to genocide, and and they ran. The ones who could survive ran for a reason. But they also valued the lives of their children more than they valued the land itself. So let me give you a story. So see if you guys would. What do you think you would do in this situation? Now imagine you have your house and somebody goes into your house and they take your child hostage. They put a gun to your child's head and they say, "Give me your house, or I'm going to blow your child's head off." What are you going to do in that situation? I know what I would do in that situation. So I'd be like, "Yes, it's unfair, it's unjust, but I care about the life of my child more than I care about my house." So, and then I'd leave. One day, maybe I'd come back and take the house back, but that's what I would do. So it's not a false analogy. But again, this is also talking about, we're not talking about the legal realities here. That if that choice could be made, then I think it would be made by the majority. However, I don't think the choice can be made because I think that they're landlocked due to the Arab countries not being able to support them. That's, to me, that's the ridiculous part of it. There are some people who would prefer to have their children slaughtered, and I'm just like, well, then you shouldn't cry when they get slaughtered. No offense. I mean, saying, well, they're killing our children, but at the same time, you're like saying, well, I'd rather have my kids die than run away. So, that to me is ridiculous. Again, though, this is calling into question. Again, I already brought up this factor in, is that they can't leave, so it's not like an option. So, but if they could, that would be the good option to take. I don't know how I'm not making sense. I just told you all the factors. I said the ethical alternative, if they could take the ethical alternative, would be to leave. That would be the ethical alternative. Just like the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam left Mecca for Medina, or he also told his followers to leave to Ethiopia, Abyssinia, because that was the sunnah, is to leave when you're being oppressed, if you can. He did not stay in Mecca and let his followers be slaughtered and his children be killed because he wanted to scream Allahu Akbar. I'm sorry. Assalamu alaikum. So my biggest issue with this whole issue is not even the Palestinians per se or the Israelis, believe it or not. My biggest issue is with the surrounding Muslim nations who won't provide this ethical alternative. So this is why I call a lot of people virtue signalers when they talk about Palestine online all the time. They're like, "Oh, the Palestinians, mashallah, they're martyrs, and we have to pray for them and stuff." I'm just saying, like, okay, sure, but at the same time, it's like this same sentiment is shared by everyone else who doesn't want to let them in. So we're like basically cheering. All the Muslims in the world are cheering for people getting slaughtered because they don't want to help them. So it's like, to me, that's disgusting. That's why I don't say anything. Well, yeah, the individual does. I'm talking about the government, yeah. Yes, I am aware that Gaza is under occupation, which is why I noted this earlier several times. I think I mentioned it 5 or 6 times. I said that they could not leave even if they wanted to. My issue is with the sentiment that if they could, they would. Some people would prefer that they martyr themselves, and I think that's an issue. I wasn't talking to you, AB. No offense. I'm sorry. He stayed in Mecca for 10 years, sure, but when it got really bad to the point where his followers were being slaughtered, he left. Right? I mean, everyone, I brought this opinion actually a long time ago regarding what the possible solutions could be, because there's no way, let's be frank, there's no way the Palestinians are going to win. I'm sorry. It has nothing to do with faith. It's all about the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has allowed this to occur, and that the Muslim nations around them are not concerned about helping. And so they only have one option, is to die and be destroyed. So, they're not going to win. So this is the only option that we have at the moment. And for some reason, the Muslim nations around don't want to do it. Because with the warlock, if the surrounding Muslim nations attempted to attack Israel, they would be wiped off the map. They would be turned into glass because they're too weak to fight. That's just true. Whether we like to hear it or not, I'm sorry. I'm not speaking to you now. You just triggered kind of something that I keep hearing all the time. It's just like, we have too many people online who keep trying to pump up the Muslim world and Muslims like, oh, we're the best. And that may be the case in terms of ethical principles, etc., and having the truth. But they're just like, oh, we're better than everyone, and we can do everything, blah 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 blah. And it's like, they don't ever say, hey, we're weak and we need to get better. Like, here's what we need to do to get better. Like, even recently, I read all this stuff. I read like some of these stupid like social media posts about like, well, who's to blame for all of this happening? Why is the Muslim world so weak? And it's like, and the whole thing was like pointing the finger at the Westerners. Oh, because the West is doing this, and the West is doing that, and the West is doing this, and the West is making sure that we can't do anything in the West, and 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 the West. Not in one mention of just like, hey, Muslims, maybe we have problems. It's not like that. We're perfect. We're perfect. Everyone else is the problem, right? That's why we have these huge issues. It's like, yeah, no. And a lot of Muslims online don't like to hear that. They want to hear how great they are. That's why current dawah is so popular, is because it doesn't talk about the weakness of Muslims. It talks about how we're so strong and chads. It's easier to be pumped up on false pride than to have to rectify and take responsibility for yourself. Haven't lost hope. Just saying the facts. Sounds bad, probably. I don't know. What fallacy would that be, YouTube? Do you know what the name of that fallacy is? Millions of soldiers and nukes, and we can't take on Israel. That is just not true. Okay, and compared to who? You think that the US is going to allow all these Muslim nations to attack Israel? Do you think Europe, all of these countries are more powerful? What do you think is going to happen? Okay, well, there's nothing honorable about having your children slaughtered. Nothing honorable about that at all. Sorry. If that's really the true sentiment of majority Palestinians, that's not honorable. I mean, I don't see what's so honorable about being completely wiped out in a genocide. There's nothing honorable about that. I'm responding to what somebody else said, Mahmoud. I think that every normal Palestinian probably wakes up in the morning and just hopes that their child can go to school and eat a normal meal. They want to be left alone. They don't even want to fight. Martyrdom is a compensation. It is not something we should be like, wake up in the morning and be like, yeah, I hope my child gets hit by a bus today. I'm sorry. That's not how you should be thinking of martyrdom. You can't, on the one hand, let's be frank, being martyred in the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, yes, it is an honor. But you shouldn't be like, God, I hope I wake up today and somebody drops a bomb on my house so I can be honored. Okay, like you have to understand what that honor means and why it's being honored. It's not, you shouldn't be praying for death every day. Afghanis did not defeat the United States. Sorry, that never happened. No, people are going to get so angry that I said that too. That never happened. The U.S. got tired of playing with its food and left. That's what happened. Why is Al-Aqsa more important than a child's life? People who fight for the dignity and faith when they have to are honorable, yes. People who desire to die when there is another alternative are not honorable. And that's why we were discussing a sentiment earlier about people who, if they could leave, would prefer to stay and have their children killed. And I said that that's not an honorable thing because now it's no longer about you. It's no longer about your dignity and honor. It's about you sacrificing your children for your own pride. Afghanis didn't kick out anyone. The United States literally just decided to leave because they were tired. If they wanted to, they could have turned Afghanistan to glass. So no, they did not. If you look at an army, nobody, the Army did not rout the U.S. Army. They didn't push them out like, oh, and the U.S. had to run away because they were so scared. That didn't happen. I'm sorry. We need to stop giving into this notion. This is nonsense. You know what happened after the United States left Afghanistan? The Taliban were begging the UN for money. They were begging the UN, the kuffar, for money. Is that a win to you? I mean, are you joking? No, it's not a win. That's ridiculous. If a cat beats up a like starts playing with a mouse, breaks all its bones, and decides not to eat it, you're going to say the mouse won because the cat ran away. The cat walked away and got bored. The Nazis. Are you comparing the Nazi invasion of Russia with the United States leaving? The Russians destroyed the Nazis on the border, like annihilated them. Like what? No, the Americans were routed from Vietnam because most of their soldiers were getting slaughtered. They couldn't fight. They didn't know how to fight in Vietnam. Oh, Noga's agreeing with me. Sorry. It's okay. So let's assume, let's just say, okay, the U.S. didn't win the war. That does not mean Afghanistan, the Taliban beat them. Does that make sense? Like you can not fulfill your objectives in a combat situation and still not be defeated by the enemy. Like people are acting like the Taliban like literally forced the United States out. Like they were with superior firepower and like tactics. That didn't happen. The US literally just decided one day we're going to leave because we don't want to waste any more money. Bye. And they raped the land, they took all the resources, they destroyed the entire infrastructure of the entire country. And then after they left, they seized their assets and Taliban were begging the UN for money. Like, are you joking? Like and then you had Muslims around the world going, Allahu Akbar, as they were begging for food and electricity and water. Like, are you joking? Like yeah, they can celebrate the US leaving, but this idea that they like pushed them out, it didn't happen. Like the US literally decided to leave. They weren't forced to leave. They just went. There was like, okay, bye. Well, thanks for the resources. And we killed most of you, so it's okay. Like if you want to call it a victory, it's a Pyrrhic victory. So the Afghans won. What did they win? What did they win? They lost more than they gained anything. What are you talking about? Like they were trying to defeat. Okay, so they didn't succeed in defeating the ideology. Matter with my Western thinking. If I was thinking like a Westerner, then I would consider them having won because they won their freedom. So apparently, I'm not thinking like a Westerner, Noah. But you did nice try. You did your best. I know the Gazans can't leave. I've said that 100 times now. Why? Who keeps? Who keeps? Why do people keep saying this stuff? Oh, me? I don't know who's talking to who. Yes, I know the story of a weaker army destroying a larger one. It's not happening right now, obviously. The U.S. could have technically stayed as long as they wanted to. They just literally left because it was politically expedient. It was just easier for them. They don't want to spend any more money. That's literally it. It's like I don't know what it's not like they were being pushed out. Like that's what I'm trying to say. Like the Afghans didn't like scare them away or like kick them out. Like they just literally decided one day we're gonna go. Bye. Take care. You're on your own. And that was it. Like this is no longer an investment for us. Take care. Like I said, it's a cat playing with its food. I don't want to eat you anymore. Bye. And then the mouse with all the broken bones is like, oh, we won. Allahu Akbar. It's like, no, that's not what happened. Sorry. No, wallahi, you're being ignorant. Antallahi, you're being ignorant. Because you're sitting here trying to tell me that the Taliban literally military victories against the largest empires in the military in the world when they literally decided on a whim to leave one day. That's why even in the United States, people were criticizing Biden because it was so like random. Like there was no strategic value other than the fact that they just didn't want to be there anymore. Okay, it wasn't because oh well the Taliban have forced us out and so no, it had nothing to do with that. If a rat survived a cat's attack long enough for it to leave, it won? No, it didn't. It survived. There's a huge what? Like if somebody comes into my house and starts beating me senseless and like almost kills me, I didn't win the fight. Like I won by staying alive. Yeah, I won, guys. I'm not dead. Like war is not Squid Game. All right. Yeah, they won. There's some soldiers that died, but I'll change the topic. It's fine. But no, seriously, let's think about this. I'm gonna say one more comment about this. You cannot sit here and say, well, they survived, or because somebody left the fight, that therefore they won the fight. This is not how it works. This is not UFC. Okay, this is not UFC rules. All right, war is very different. You only win a fight, win a battle, if you defeat the enemy. Okay, if you push them back, if they have to flee because of you, if they leave because they just feel like it, or like, well, I'm hungry today and I just don't want to fight you, that doesn't mean you won. It just means that they stopped fighting. Does that make sense? Like, it doesn't make sense that you're sitting here like saying, oh, because the US left, Taliban won. Like, no, they didn't. They lost more than anyone in this entire war. The Afghani population has been decimated. Infrastructure has been decimated. The country has been raped of its resources. They don't even have money to survive. They had to beg their enemies that just left for the money. How is that a victory? That is not a victory. That's embarrassing. The mouse was fighting back. Yeah, it's like the mouse biting the cat on the paw. And the cat's just like, all right. I mean, uh, U.S. citizens already even believe that the Afghan and Iraq War were at some point at least were it was pointless to be there. So all Biden did was politically expedient, which is like, okay, we're going to leave, and that was it. It had no there was no strategic value in terms of war. Like he didn't like go, okay, you guys have to leave now because the Taliban are beating us. That had nothing to do with it. Like they literally like they could have stayed there for another 20 years. Nobody cares. Like I'm just saying, like, why are you trying to sit here and make it seem like there was like Afghanistan is still a colony as far as I'm concerned, but that's besides the point. But it hasn't. So like I'm just saying that nobody like Afghanistan didn't win. There was a win. They just survived. Thank God that Afghanistan survived. But to act like they did something for the U.S. to leave, it's like no, they didn't. Um, okay, so even if we admit that the U.S. didn't achieve its goals, Afghanistan still didn't win. The Taliban still didn't win. Does that? Well, I don't understand why there's this dichotomy. Doesn't make sense to a lot of people. Like there, yeah, that's another thing. Is like a lot of people have like a lot of like they're like the Taliban. It's like why do you even care? The U.S. again not achieving its own goals does not necessitate that the other side beat them or that the other side won the war. Me leaving a fight doesn't mean that my opponent won the fight, especially if I beat them into the ground. Me leaving and stop beating them in the face doesn't mean that they won. Like, the U.S. got everything it wanted from that. I'm sorry, I don't care. This whole idea that they have the puppet government thing that was only during the occupation. When they left, they took everything they wanted with them. They already got the money and the resources they wanted. That was the whole purpose of Afghanistan to begin with. They killed everyone they wanted to kill. They got rid of. They basically changed the whole region. They got everything they wanted out of that. This whole thing about, oh, we want to establish democracy, that's always been a lie. You know that. Just like the whole thing with Iraq, it had nothing to do with establishing democracy. It had everything to do with destabilizing the region. They did that perfectly well. Is there any Muslim nation that wants to accept Palestinian refugees? Probably not. And that's the problem. That's the real issue here. Did Turkey accept? War isn't decided by having a higher KD ratio. Uh, okay, by achieving your objectives. Have you ever heard what a Pyrrhic victory is? Do you know what that is? What a Pyrrhic victory is? Does anyone know what that is? I didn't say America won per se. I said that earlier. Then I'm sorry, but I said that Afghanistan didn't beat them. The Taliban didn't beat the U.S. They didn't win. Pyrrhic victory oftentimes is a victory that is achieved, yes, with greater consequences for the victor. In this case, um, even if you claim it's a victory, it's like, not really. No, it's not. It's it's called a Pyrrhic victory for a reason, because it gives the impression of being a victory, but the reality is they lost. I just refer to semantics. I don't think you understand basic English, and I think that you're trying too hard. I'm going to be very honest with you. Like, nobody claims that a Pyrrhic victory is a real victory. Go look that up anywhere. Just go entertain me and go find something. Okay, it's called a phrase. We use it a lot, and you don't apparently don't understand what that is. So please stop trying to lecture me about my own language. The nerve of these kids. Uh, oh my God, people don't comprehend basic English. So now I'm gonna go. This is why I have a hard time communicating. You literally just made your own definition of victory. No, you're a moron. There's a difference. Oh my God. I don't even want to indulge this anymore. Oh my God. Okay. This is what happens when you're too arrogant and don't have enough education. Okay. I am leaving him be. Good. Why don't I think they do it? Well, I think because they don't see any interest in supporting Palestinians, and they're very selfish. And I don't think they really support Palestine. That's the bottom line. There could be some pragmatic reasons for smaller countries not to support, maybe because they can't take the influx of refugees, and maybe that would destroy and cripple their own societies. But there are societies that have a lot of money. A lot of Arab countries have enough money to actually support a lot of refugees, but they'd rather spend it on yachts and big buildings and other such things. They also want to keep good relations with the West, since most of their economy is reliant on them. So a lot of it has to do with a lot of cowardice, money, greed, power, disinterest. It's all a lot of platitudes, a lot of virtue signaling. Oh, hey, we support the Palestinians. Here, we're going to send you some money for food, by the way. Good luck. That's basically all they want to do. Even though they have all this land, they could have just said, hey, come in over here. But no, they're not going to do that because they don't want to take the responsibility. There, that's my answer. No, W2 was not a Pyrrhic victory for the Allies beat the hell out of the Axis powers. They completely decimated them. Germany was turned to dust almost. Hitler, everyone. Japan got completely colonized. No. Allies lost a lot more people, yes, but they completely dominated the other side. That's just not true. Um, Again, I wouldn't even concur that the death count necessarily is an indicator of victory or loss, although it can be. It is primarily whether the other side is completely stopped by the other side, completely decimated or conquered, or routed. You know what I mean? Like, as in, like, we had to leave because you kicked our butts. Like, that's, not because we just felt like it, but because you literally, like, if we didn't leave, you would have slaughtered us. That's a loss. That's a win by the other side. It's not just like, oh, I decided to go. But the Allied powers, they completely decimated the Axis powers. I mean, they decimated Germany. They colonized Japan. I mean, I don't know what you're saying. Yeah, this makes no sense. You can't dominate the other side when fighting a defensive war. Oh my God. Jeez. Jeez. Okay. Are you in school? So, okay, here we go. So, when the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was fighting the pagan Arabs, was it a defensive war? Yes or no? The entire conflict. Who started the fight? Who is trying to annihilate who? We don't just focus on the battle. It's a whole. There was a whole war. Oh, I like, dude. You have an anime profile pic. You have no business talking at all. To be quite honest, you should. You don't even take yourself seriously, and you're sitting here talking about me not having a basic understanding of military conflict. So I learned about World War II extensively throughout my education, and I'm sitting here telling you that yes, the Allied powers dominated the Axis powers by nuking Japan. Hello, they were not the aggressors. Like, I mean, what the hell are you talking about? This is ridiculous. No, the Allied powers didn't dominate anyone because they were defending themselves. It's like you can dominate people and still be defending yourself. Do you not understand basic English? What happened? uh, that's the problem. We have a lot of young kids these days who have these really delusional sense of entitlement and these false pride built up in themselves, thinking that all these are victories and stuff. And when they're sitting here, just like being a bunch of keyboard warriors every day, not actually, and seeing the Muslim world crumble around them, they're not even actually doing anything to help anyone. It's just ridiculous. I'm really tired of this social media nonsense. All these kids online, Allahu Akbar, yeah, we gotta do this. We're so superior. Let's be based in Chads and don't make fun of all the Western people. And it's like, yeah, they're still kicking your ass. And then they get mad at me. Oh, you shouldn't be talking bad about the Muslims. We have to be superior. We gotta look like we're better than everyone else. No, we don't. If you actually admitted that we are weak for once, maybe that we could solve our problems. Because when you sit here and you have this false sense of pride about your own superiority and stuff, you don't change. You don't get better. You don't do better. You don't look for better. You don't try to overcome your challenges. You don't try to be a better person. You don't try to be a better community. It's just you compensating for your inferiority complex. It's you being lazy and intellectually lazy and incompetent and irresponsible, and then presenting that same sentiment to the next generation. That's what you're doing. You're just setting everyone else up for failure, just like yourselves. Mm-hmm. Oh. What's the point of having your iman if it's not manifested in any way, shape, or form? People sit here and say Allahu Akbar every day long, say La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. There's value in that by itself. But then you want to sit here and claim, oh, Because we have that, because we say those words, we're superior. No, it needs to be manifested. Okay, it needs to be goes beyond simply virtue signaling and simply beyond coming out of your mouth, right? The problem with the Muslim world is that all we care about are words instead of actions. That's the reason we have all these problems. I'm just sick and tired of hearing everything. Every single day is the same nonsense. Every single day, the same complaints. Every single day. Oh, they're doing this to us. We're not doing it. Blah, 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 blah. Just always talking. That's all we do. Talk. And then they get mad at me for pointing it out. Get over it. That's why I'm tired. I don't care like what people say anymore. No, I don't watch UFC. A doomer. No, I'm a realist. You're just lazy and you don't want to admit the truth because you don't actually want to change anything. You think it's just happening, just going to come out of your butt. Like, bro, if we just be Chad enough and based enough, bruh, the Westerners will fail and then we'll just be like the caliphate, bruh. It's like, no, bruh. That's not how it works, bruh. Well, I'll tell you what my realist mindset is not doing is staying online all day, going on Twitter and Facebook and complaining and acting like I'm winning. And I'll tell you, that's what it's not doing. Bruh, if this YouTube video gets 1 million views, then bruh, the caliphate, bruh. That's basically how I think all you guys who are complaining, that's how you guys behave online all the time. I am online all day on this stream. I am here on a stream once a month. You are here a lot more than me, I assure you. So, no, I will not be going back. Bruh, if we just do a social media campaign, bruh, this will all be resolved, bruh. Bruh, we're doing so well in the Dawa right now, bruh. Can you see we got like Andrew Tate and Sneeko? They're gonna liberate Palestine, bruh. Just gotta take the red pill, bruh. Oh my god. The problem is that, and going back to sarcasm, is that the problem is a lot of you are delusional in terms of what counts as victory and what counts as progress in our society. You're also completely oblivious to the nature of the influence that occurs online as well as in the political realm. And all your solutions are basically weak and inconsequential and inefficient because you're not actually applying anything. See, if you really want to solve all the problems in the Muslim world, there are a number of things that we can start doing, but that none of you are really interested in to begin with. And that also has to go back to your mindset. which revolves around Pyrrhic victories and not so much actual victories. See, one of the biggest problems that I've noted a lot of times throughout my streams and throughout my videos is that there's a lack of educational infrastructure within the Muslim community, as well as a proper foundation for knowledge, and that we have a massive amount of brain drain, and that is occurring within the Muslim world. You see, all of our most successful and most talented and most intelligent individuals are leaving Muslim countries for a reason. And they're leaving because we don't have, our own communities do not value, nor do they are concerned with many of the things that make the West very powerful in terms of this material progress, in terms of material power and influence. So you want to talk about military technology, for example. The reason that they have more advanced military technology is because they invest in that, number one. Number two is because they invest in proper education and things like that in order to advance those things, whereas we do not. On the contrary, what we do as Muslim countries is we borrow extensively from others. We borrow, we borrow, we borrow, we purchase, we borrow, we purchase. We do not develop. We do not invest. We do not create. We take, we borrow. We send our talented people over there. They don't come back. We wonder why. That's one of the big reasons that we're weak right now. Another reason, the most evident of them all in terms of spirituality, is that we have a lot of Muslims who see their identity as Muslims as primarily a cultural phenomenon, as something that defines them only in a very superficial, surface level manner. That's why you have a lot of Arab states who still are heavily invested in nationalism, are very racist, very xenophobic. You have a lot of, just to be frank, South Asian and Southeast Asian Muslim countries who are suffering from a lot of oppression or instability because they're so corrupt in their own governments. I mean, you want to sit here and talk all day about, oh, the West is doing this and the West is doing that, and they're sending agents and they're undermining us. The only reason that's all possible is because the Muslims controlling our own lands and the Muslims who are putting those people in power are themselves corrupt and damaged. That's another problem. Now, I can go on all day. You can sit here and criticize me all day and say, well, you know what? You shouldn't be talking bad about the Muslim world. You shouldn't be saying this and that. We need to be proud, and we need to say, sit here and be like, oh, we're the best in the world. It's like, no, we're not. That's the problem. That's the reason we're losing right now, is because we're not the best. And if we have some real solutions other than utilizing kuffar platforms in order to advance our message, and then assuming that because we get more likes or because we ratio Israeli account on Twitter, that therefore we're winning, I mean, that's a delusion. The only reason that you're ratioing anyone is because they're allowing you to. And the reason they're allowing you to is because they know you're not going to do anything real. The only reason that you're winning anywhere on social media is because they're allowing you to, because they know you're not going to do crap beyond that. That's the reason. So, because if you don't think they can just push a button anytime to stop you, they would. They're letting you do it because they don't care. It's like if you were throwing stones at a tank, for example. You think the tank is going to be like, oh, God, we got to fight back because that stone is going to damage us. Israel's losing? How is Israel losing? Do you guys hear yourselves speak? If they were losing, none of this would be happening right now. You are literally watching a show, a Netflix show, and you don't even realize it. Like you think you have any power. Like, this is insane. You guys need to wake up. This is why I don't talk online that much, because it's like it's all a bunch. It's just a game. You're like in a simulation. You don't even realize it. This is all a simulation. And in terms of what you think is actually happening, this is also it's oh my god, no. I didn't mean simulation like that. It's not like one of those what is it called? Ontological simulations. I'm talking about in terms of what is being presented to you in terms of the news. Everything is being controlled by these news medias. We know this, right? Like all these channels, Twitter, whether it's or X or whatever you call it, Facebook, all the news channels in the world, mainstream media, they all have their own narratives, correct? We know that. Okay. Now, that doesn't mean there's no facts involved. Of course, there can be, especially when there's no political investment. But to sit here and suggest that, what is it called? Alternative voices within these mediums becoming somewhat successful or having followers is indicative of a change of opinion is nonsensical, because that, first off, you obviously don't understand algorithms, because what you understand to be a win in terms of influence, social media influence, is just the algorithm working in your favor. It doesn't necessitate that you actually have any real influence in terms of what's actually going on. So for example, I noted this in an earlier thing that I wrote a long time, well, not too long ago. So I said, so this idea, for example, you have two competing ideologies, say, in a YouTube space. Let's just use YouTube, right? Now, let's just use an easy one. Let's say that you have the ex-Muslims, right, and you have the Muslims. Okay, and this happened several times, by the way. So you all understand what I'm saying here. So you have, say, an ex-Muslim has 500,000 followers, right, and you have a Muslim who has 50,000 followers. Okay, now the ex-Muslim responds to the Muslim, blah blah blah, and they're going back and forth. Okay, and now, according to you, the ex-Muslim has more influence overall because they not only have a larger follower count, a larger view count, etc. But that's not the case. That is not the case. It just means that people who migrate to that platform or those particular mediums, there are more. It seems to be more the case that the people who support the ex-Muslim are in those areas. It does not mean that overall that person has more influence than other people. Does that make sense? So it's like, because if you actually look at the ex-Muslims online, they have absolutely zero influence or words outside of that particular channel. Like, they don't have anything. Like, if the outside is like, nobody knows who they are, right? Nobody cares. You know what I'm saying? So it's just the algorithm. It's just the type of people who are invested in that particular medium at the time. It has nothing to do with actual influence, right? I mean, and people who think that it does, that's also something that I used to mock a lot of these ex-Muslim people about. It's because they used to say, "Oh, we're changing. Islam is being defeated because we have more views in our videos." You hear that all the time, and I would just sit and laugh at them. Now Muslims are adopting the same mentality. I'm just like, why? This is so stupid. Grape believes that is not what I even said. That conversation was about a completely different thing. It was about if somebody had this particular viewpoint. No. The answer is no. That's the problem. Now let's be nuanced though, since we're talking about influence, right? If for example, a follower of that particular channel goes out and does something, then obviously there's some influence there in terms of real world effects. The type of influence I'm talking about is the overall opinion of society. right? I'm talking about like, oh, those, like this, if the majority of society must agree with this person because this person has more subscribers than this person over here. Like that doesn't make any sense. No, that's not true. Um, do I have any hope? If anyone comes over here and clips this is a private thing. I'm gonna put this down, this stream, because these are my private streams. If anyone tries to publicize my private streams and takes my stuff out of context, I swear to God, I'm coming after you. And I don't mean like online. Because if you try to hurt me or my family by doing that, I swear to God, I will go to Chicago myself, AP. I will deal with you. Okay? Legally, trust me. Not gonna be physical. I'll deal with you legally. Do not push me. You better not do something like that. I swear to God. Okay, I already have enough nonsense to deal with. This is for my own private viewers. This is for me. You so much as let any person come after me and my family, I swear to God, I will bury you. Do not even think about it. I'm just warning you. Don't. Okay? Done. Fucking shit. I'm tired of like, people just like, I'm only talking like for everyone here. You ask me my opinion, that's it. I don't want people using my stuff. It's just, this is my private stuff. I'm going to break this down. So, yeah, they do make biscuits. It's pretty good. They're actually very good. I mean, I just don't care anymore either about like this whole thing. Like, you guys want to like, everyone's offended by what I say. I'm just trying to give you like a very basic understanding of this, like in the sense of like, if you look at all the factors that are involved here, it's not just a black or white thing, obviously, right? Number one, in terms of the solutions, right? We know that. Number two, right? But everyone, either one side or the other, does one of these two things. They either support everyone on this one side or they support everyone on this one side without any questions, with total immunity to criticism. And that's a huge issue. And everyone's just all this like super charged up about, oh, if we don't do this, then that means that, you don't support Islam. Or if you don't do this, it means that, blah, blah. It's like, it's ridiculous. Why is anyone protesting in Roblox? Well, that's stupid. What does it do? Oh, Malay kids protesting. Like if they want to get their voice out, that's their thing. If you want to communicate your grief, that's fine. But that I don't see what the point is. Like what is like what are you doing? If they're doing it just to, like, talk amongst themselves and make them feel a certain way, then fine, that's fine, whatever. I don't care. But if it's like if you're saying that it has some sort of material benefit, then obviously it does not. I don't know what argument is being made for that, but I'm just saying, I already said what I believe should happen. I don't think it's going to happen because I think the fault of the neighboring nations that aren't trying to assist, other than like sending their hopes and prayers and some money from time to time, when they could be doing so much more. That's the real fault here, because we know what Israel's going to do. We know that they're going to continue doing this and they're going to destroy Gaza. We know that, and the Muslim nations are just sitting there, they're not offering any other solutions. Um, what the hell is a madkhali? Could you stop throwing words around you don't even know? Yes, leave Apis alone. Excuse me, apostate prophet. Ridwan. If you're just here, Ridwan, let me be frank with you. If you're just here because you really want to see my opinion on things and because you wanted to invite me, that's fine. But again, I'm going to ask you, do not clip anything or anything like that. You understand? Don't do that. Okay. If you're not going to do that, then fine, we're good. But I don't want to deal with, I'm not here to deal with anyone. Okay. So just asking you nicely now, don't do that, please. Because I'm not in the mood. I'm dealing with a lot of stuff right now. I don't want to deal with that. Oh my God, I'm not downplaying dua. Oh my God. Do you, so there's a hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that says that when you make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because there was an individual who had requested, I forgot his name, who said regarding his horse or his camel, should he leave it tied and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take care of him, and then the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, as far as I'm aware, and correct me if I'm wrong, stated that make dua but tie your camel, right? Okay, so dua works, but that doesn't mean you don't do anything. Okay, look, I've been trying to provide solutions. None of you want to take them. You just want to say, no, that's not enough. The main solution here is that the community itself, the Ummah itself, cannot do anything to support Palestine in any significant way at the current moment because we are too weak and too unable to do so. The point is that we need to start developing a plan and a solution towards making ourselves stronger in this world in order to help out with the problems of this world. It's not about being dunya focused. It's about if you want to resolve problems of the dunya, you have to have dunya solutions alongside being righteous and being practicing Muslims. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded us to be good in this world and the next. There is no such thing as being defeatist by simply admitting to the fact that we are being defeated. Correct? That's the point that I'm trying to make. And if you cannot admit that we are defeated, then we cannot make a solution. Because if you go around saying we're winning when it's not happening, then there's nothing to work for. There's nothing to work towards. That's the point. Again, you have to be honest. You have to be realistic in your approach to things. Okay? You can't keep giving false pride to this community, because that will not help us to develop. And there's nothing about being dunya focused here. During the golden age of Islam, whether you want to call it that or not is a different thing. I'm not going to get into semantics of that right now. Okay. But during the time period in which Muslims were at the highest in terms of materialistically in civilization, we had both of these things. Okay. We had the Iman and we had the material progress, and we were beating everyone around us. And there were people coming to our universities. There were kuffar coming to our universities. There were kuffar coming to our lands. There were kuffar taking our goods, purchasing from us, using our trade routes, using our technology. Okay? That's the point I'm trying to make. We can go back to that. People are not moving in that direction now. Instead, we have a lot of Muslims who are being complacent and using these delusional mediums, or just having this delusional perspective about these mediums they're utilizing as a means to win, when that's not happening. Okay? That's all I'm trying to say. You can be angry at me, you can be upset, be my guest. That's the solution forward, and I'll tell you why. More evidence that this is a more proper solution, because everything that we're doing now is not working. It's not even secular education. We got to stop using these terms. There is no such thing as secular education. Okay? There is just education. Some of them have biases. Some teachers who have certain biases, certain cultures have certain biases, but there are such things as facts. And now they can be interpreted a certain way, yes, different paradigms, but there are still, like, I mean, like, if we started teaching biology, biology is not a secular subject. Does that make sense? It's not secular. It's just biology, right? I mean, like, there's nothing inherently secular about biology. There's nothing inherently secular about engineering. There's no such thing. I mean, everyone's considered an agent if you disagree with certain people. It doesn't matter. Like, you could, I mean, it's an underhanded, it's just a passive way of making takfir on people, because we all know, most Muslims agree that, I think that if you're working with a government that is killing Muslims, actively working for a government that's killing Muslims, that you're a munafiq, right? So that's just basically just a way of making takfir without coming out and saying takfir. And it's a petulant child's way of making takfir of everyone he doesn't like, because they disagreed with him. That's all it is. Even I don't agree with, like, Sajid Lehman and Faris and all these other people, but I don't go around calling them agents, because I'm not a vindictive moron who think that it's appropriate. You know, unless you have, like, you know, a payroll or an admittance of working, or like any evidence. Yeah, what's up? Do you want to give me that? Give me that. Let me see. Let me see you.
Where's Mama?
Like your mama.
Oh, Daddy, what are you doing?
No.
What are you doing?
I'm watching something. What are you doing?
What? I'm Dad.
John?
What's your name?
What's my? Oh, no.
What's Daddy?
Daddy's here. There. Yeah, you can see me in two places at once.
That's Daddy's name.
Yeah.
Look.
What is
Daddy's have blue stripes.
Yeah, blue stripes.
But wait, who?
You want to go over there?
What happened?
What happened?
What happened to Daddy?
I know.
What happened to Daddy?
Daddy looks, I don't know, terrible. Okay.
I think he's terrible.
No. Why don't you go over there? I'll come over there in a second, okay? Go back. Anyways, I'll be back. Okay, you go over there. No clothes, no clothes. Okay, bye-bye. Thank you. So the whole point, um, the whole point of this whole talk here, and you, part of my passion is that y y this is all just this is all nonsense. I mean, I'm sorry, and that's why again I don't talk a lot online because it's just everyone getting mad at each other and nothing actually being done, and then we're all just watching from the distance as spectators as our brothers and sisters are being slaughtered, and we're watching as the ummah is actually being degraded constantly, and all we do is just talk. And one of the reasons that I left eventually too is because I was tired of this all. Part of it was just like, it's just ridiculous. And you're always gonna say, well, what are you doing? Well, I'm trying to gradually work certain things out within my own community and also within my own life. There's not much else we can do because again, it takes an entire community together to work this out. And the problem is we have too many people within our communities right now who are investing too much into these so-called solutions that aren't real solutions. They just keep repeating the same stuff over and over again. The same campaigns, the same fundraisers, the same this, the same that. And it's getting old because every year something happens in Palestine. And it's the same thing every single time. All brothers and sisters, let's have a big fundraiser at the masjid so we can send money over there, give all your dua, everything. Let's all post stuff on social media. Then it dies down. Then we wait a couple of months. Another bombing happens. Another raid happens. Oh, we do the same thing over and over again. It just keeps repeating itself every single year. And I remember when I had more hope at one point because I remember when I first became Muslim, I joined this organization called Students for Justice in Palestine. I was there for 2 years, and I worked within the government part of that, meaning the school government part of that, where I was actually a liaison and stuff like that. Right, day one, I was part of this. Okay, and I was fighting, doing protest, banners, events, movies, trying to spread awareness, doing fundraisers, everything you can think about. Okay, I was doing it. And yet, what has changed since then? And so you cannot sit here and I'm sorry, you can be upset, but you can't be upset at me for being like disillusioned, not delusional, but disillusioned with the whole process. Something is wrong. We need to change it. We need to change course. That's the issue. That's all I'm trying to say. I've already ranted enough. And again, I'm sorry for offending some people and insulting some of you too. It was a very heated discussion among some of you between me, so I just ask for forgiveness. But again, I'm just frustrated just as much as everyone else is. And I'm only asking you to take my thoughts into consideration, to kind of step back from the emotional content as well, and just kind of look at what I'm saying. I may be wrong. Fine, whatever. Okay. If that's the case, I will correct myself. I'm pretty used to doing that. And I've corrected myself a lot over the years. But I don't see how any of the stuff that we're doing online or all this other stuff we keep talking about is doing anything. It's just not helping anyone. And I just feel like we don't. I just feel like we need to figure something else out. That's all I'm trying to say. So, um, yeah, it's over. So it's, you know what I think is going to happen. I know this is probably going to be the solution I'm offering to is not popular because it's very long term. But the reality is that sometimes that's how things are. It's going to take time, like to get to where we need to be to actually resolve these issues at an actual situation. But we have to start somewhere, and part of that is doing things that actually work or actually move in that direction, right? That's what we need to do. So, anyways, I'm gonna let you all go. You take care. I have to head out. She's not feeling well, I think. All right. So I'm gonna come over to what we got to.